Hello dear friends, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial we will learn how to create a form which later create a database for us in PHP. Let me show you what I mean. Sometime in your course you maybe need an installation which your code automatically create a database and table and maybe add items into your tables. So how you can do that using PHP? In this tutorial, we're going to learn that. Let's check this form. In this form, you can create a database. First of all, you have to put your host name, which is the default host name of your server, because I'm using the local host for me is localhost. My username is root. I don't have any password, and I want to create a database. Let's call it test4. As you can see, I don't have test4 in here, so I call it test4. When I click install, it will automatically generate a database for me named test4. It also create two tables for me inside it. So let's click install, and this is the success message. The database created successfully. Post table created successfully, comment table created successfully. Now let's check if it's done or not. Let's refresh, and as you can see, I have a database called test4, and I have two tables, comments and post. Just by clicking this installation button, I have made everything I needed. It is very useful. For example, if you want to create your own framework and etc., so user should not come generate those tables separately. You can create a file called database installation, and user just put its user host, username, password, and just click install, and everything will be done. Okay, you saw how it works. Now let's make it. Before that, I want to show you the code. This is the code of this file, and we will write everything from the scratch. So first, let's create a file. I make a file, and I call my file, I create a folder, I call it database installation. Inside this database installation, we will write our code. First of all, I have to open my visual code editor. You can use any code editor you would like. I like this visual code editor, so I drag and drop my folder into it, and in here I create a file. I call it index.php, and I want to create the basic HTML5 structure, and that's it. I give it a title, database installation. You can give it any title you want. The first thing we have to do is to create a form. We have to create a form like this one. I'm going to close this one and show you how it looks in here. I can also do one more thing. I can run it in a live server. Where is it? Okay, then install the extension. Okay, anyway, let's refresh. My file is created. First of all, I'm going to give it a title, a header, something like that. I use h2, and I say database installation. After that, I create a form, and I close my form, and everything will be inside my form. Okay, the first thing I have to do is to give my form some method in action. My form method is post, because I want to post everything, and then the action. And because I want to run this index.php file itself, I can use echo and server, and then php self, which means it will run, the action will run this file, nothing else. Okay, and then let's close it. And because some people can use things like XSS or SQL injection, let's make it a little bit safer. I use a function in PHP which is called HTML special chars characters. It means HTML special character. It will automatically remove any special characters like using JavaScript characters or HTML characters. Okay, then inside my form I'm going to create a label. Just let's create a label, and this label is for host, so I call it host, and under this label I create an input, and the type of this one is text. I give it a name, host, and maybe I give it an ID also, which I don't need, but you can give it. And I want this one to be required, and that's it. Let's add a little bit of a space. Let's see how it looks, and there you go. It looks cool. Okay, I have to do this some more time, so I just copy paste it a few times, and the other one is for after host we have the username. This one is for username. I change the name to username, and also the label for username. The other one is password. Just in this one I change the type to password, and I give it the name of password. Just copy paste it here, and the final one is the database name, and I call it database. And because password is not necessary, I remove this required, because some servers like localhost don't have any password. And finally we create an input, and this one is a submit button. So I also want to give it a value of install, and I give it the name of install. Okay, my form is completed. Let's see how it looks. As you can see, this is my form, but it doesn't have any style at all. So we can write the style, but that will take a lot of time. So I use some library. That's really easy. I just use a link CSS. Instead of this style.css, I write http://my.sky.net/components/form, and I use the default default.css. This is a library for form. So let's refresh, and let's see how it looks. Yeah, now it looks really nice just using this library. This library is very useful if you want to create some forms. There's a lot of more library inside the myskypower.net website. Okay, once our form is completed, now we need to create our action. Okay, so let's, under this form, I open a PHP file and I close it. The first thing I have to do is to check if the form is submitted or not, and that's really easily. I use if the server request method is equal to post, which means if anything is posted, we'll do this. Okay, what we do, we first have to post the name, the username, all of this inputs. And that's really easy. I create a variable, I call it host, and this is equal to post the name of this input, which is host. Sorry. And we need to just copy paste this few more times. Okay, after that we have this username, this one. I just copy its name and paste it here. After that we have the password and the database. Okay, we have posted everything from the form into our PHP and stored it inside its variables. After that we have to create connection. Okay, we have to create a connection. And because this connection will be used, we need to create a connection with the database. So we use this host username and password from this form to create a connection. That's a basic connection. We don't want a connection with the database yet because we want to create the database. We don't have it already. Okay, remember that. So I create a variable, call it conf connection, and I use new, I use MySQLi, and the first one is my host name, which is this one, host, and after that is the username, and the last one is the password. Okay. Now I have to check the connection. Okay, check connection, because I don't know if these informations are correct or not. We have to make sure it's correct. If $connection, this connection connect error. If it has an error, we wanna fail the connection. So I use die, and I wanna print connection failed, and I wanna print what is the problem. So I use my connection, and it should print the connection, the connect error. Okay, and just like that, we have made connection with the database. Not any database yet. Okay, remember that. Okay, and after this, we want to create database. After this, we want to create a database. So how we can do that? Now we have a connection with the database and stored in this variable $con, and I just create a variable. I call it SQL create DB. I just write a SQL which will create our database. So inside this double quote, I write, make sure this is capital, create database if not exists. This is important. We don't want to rewrite a database. Okay, we just want to create a new, and if it already exists, we don't want to make it. And then your database name, and that's exactly this one. Okay, just type $database, and after that we check if $connection, and we use query to create this, to run this query. What's the query? This $SQL create DB. So we just copy its name and put it inside this brackets. And because we use if, so we have to make sure it is true, equal to true. Okay, and this will create our database. We just write SQL, and then using the connection, we run that SQL that easily. If it is true, which means our database is created already, so we just echo a success message like the database created successfully, and maybe also add a little bit of space. We print this message. Okay, once the database is created, now we have to reconnect our server, but we also want to have the connection of this database. Okay, because now we have our new database. But before doing that, we have to close our connection. We have to close this connection and reconnect. So let's see, reopen connection with the selected database. What we should do first, we use the connection, and we have to close it. We have to close this connection because we don't have any database connection yet. And again, we make a new connection. Just copy paste this part of the code, and after the password you just write your database name, which is this one, $database. And we have to check if the connection is correct or not. We can just copy this part of the code and paste it here. Okay, what we did, we created our database, our new database. We closed our last connection because it didn't have database, and we reconnect it, and we also check if the connection is right or wrong. Okay, after this, using this code, you can create your database. But we also want to create a table inside our database. But before doing that, let's test this one and see if it creates a database for us or not, if our code is correct or not. Let's refresh. I don't have password. I make a database, call it test 5 for example, and click install. Database created successfully. Let's check. Let's refresh, and there you go. I have test 5 and there's no table inside it. Okay, now we want, when I click this install button, also create a table inside it. So how you can do that? Create table. How you can create table? We have to write a SQL query. Okay, we have to write an SQL. So again, I call it SQL create posts. Sorry, create SQL create table, and my table name should be users, something like that. So it is not important, you can call it anything you want. And inside this one we have to write our query. Because our query is very long, I'm going to put it inside an enter and write my code in here. First, it must be capital, so create table. We first have to check if this table exists or not. That's really important. We don't want to rewrite anything. Create table if exists, and in here you can't use this what we call it, question mark. We have to use something called backtick. If you check your keyboard, on the left side of 1, the number 1 at the top of your keyboard, at the top left, you have something called backtick. Okay, don't mistake in this one with this one. They are looking really similar, but they are different. Inside this backtick, you can call your table name, like table. I just write a name inside it. I call it, for example, users, and again use backtick to close it. You can also use a variable if you create something. If it comes from the form, you create another one called table name. In here, just use $, the variable name, but I don't want to do that. You know how to do it yourself. Okay, after that, inside it will create us a table called user, but we don't have anything inside user. We should have something, right? So what our table users have, the first thing is the ID. Again, use backtick called ID, and our ID is integer, so I say int for integer, and this is the amount of characters used. 11 is enough. And after that, okay, and the ID is integer and has 11 characters. And after that, I don't want this one to be null, so I use not null, and it should be auto increment, which means it will be automatically added 1, 2, 3, 4. So I say auto increment, something like that. Okay, and inside the users table, I'm gonna have username to backtick. Okay, this is small username, and the username could be a varchar, and the max character is 255, and I just want to be null, so it's also not null. And then we have the passwords, and this also a varchar 155, not no, and that's it. We also can create a timestamp if you want, but I don't need that. I think this is enough for me, but this is enough for me. Okay, what else do we need? You have to mention that ID is a primary key. The ID, because this ID is a primary key, we have to mention that this is the basic SQL. Okay, this is SQL code. You just use SQL inside the PHP. So let's comma, let's say the primary key is backtick this ID. Okay, this ID backtick this primary key is this ID. And what else you want? We wanna nothing. I think that's enough. We have to use some other code also. You can copy paste this part, but I say the engine is einen ODB default. That's something you must use. The character set is UTF MB4, I think MB4, and the glitch is equal to UTF-8 MB4 and general, I think CI. We will see if we get an error. We will fix it. Okay, this is our SQL. You can use any SQL you want. Okay, there's one more thing I have to mention. If you don't want to write the SQL like this, you just come here to phpMyAdmin, create your table, add create your database, add your tables, and once you have done everything, you just come here to export and just export this SQL and just copy that code and paste it in here. You can also do that. It will create exactly the same thing for you. The focus main of this tutorial is to learn how we can use PHP to do it. Okay, that's not about SQL, it's about PHP. Okay, this is our SQL query. We have to run it. How we can run it? We will use our $connection. This is our database connection, and then we use the query. This query will run this one. Just copy and paste it inside this bracket, and we'll run it. But we have to check if it's correct or if it's correct or not. So we put it inside this F, and we equal to true, which means that this table is created, this query is run, and there's no problem. So we echo a message. We say the users table has been created successfully. Okay, a nice message. If it's not correct, you can also use else, and you can echo error. The table username is not created. Okay, just like that. Once we have done everything, we need to close the connection. So in here, I'm going to close the connection. I use the $con and just close it. Okay, let's run this code. But let's first run it, and then I will explain what we did. Okay, let's refresh. I have table 5. I want to create table 6. Let's refresh. And my host is localhost. My username is root. I don't have any password. And I say table 6. Sorry, database name is table 6. It doesn't look, sorry, not table 6. It is test 6. Okay. We don't have any test 6 in here. So I put it here. And let's click install. I hope I didn't get an error. And click. Oh yeah, I have an error. Uncaught error calling function query on line 72. Let's come back. You will get error. That's not the problem. 72. Okay, what's wrong with this one? Okay. In here I didn't use this arrow. Okay, you must do it like this. It should be like this. Now we will not get it. I hope I don't get error anymore. Localhost, the username is root. I don't have password, and this one is test 6. I don't have text 6 in here. I don't have. Oh, I have it. Okay, the database is created. That part was correct, but the table is not created. That part was not correct. So I call it table 7 and click install. Okay, another error. What's it? 72. Okay. Let me check this. But before that, let's see if this database is created. Yeah, but the table is not created. Okay, so there's a problem. Let me check what's wrong, and I will let you know in a moment. Okay, sorry. I just read my code again, and I found that I have few problems in here. The first one is I said create table if exists. I should say if not exists. This table should not exist. And later and also in here I have to add an it. This is the character set format, and at the bottom my connection is not closed correctly, so I have to use this arrow. And now my code looks nice and it should do the job without any error. Let's test it. Let's refresh. I've deleted some database. I have the test 6. I want to create a database called test 7. Okay, localhost, my username is root, I don't have password, and I say test 7. And just click install. It should create me the database test 7 and also create that table user inside it. Click install. Okay. One more problem. Okay, I get it. Table 7 is created. Let's open this one. I should not use this comma in here, and that's it, because here we don't use a comma. I hope I don't get an error anymore. Let's say localhost root test 8 install, and there we go. Without an error, the database created successfully, and also the table users has been created successfully. Let's refresh in here, and we have that database test 8, and inside this database we have the table called users, and inside this users table we have its rows, the ID, username, password, and everything you need. And just like this, you can create any project you want and want to share it with the other people, and it's really hard to give them the configuration file. Or SQL code. You just create an installation, a beautiful installation like the WordPress, and the user should have to, all he need to do is to click the install button, and that's it. It will make their job easier. I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. If you have any question, just let me know at the comment below. I will share the full source code of this file in the description. And as always, thanks for the watching. Have a nice day.